Steelers are the 34th team since 1933 to be outgained in each of their first 8 games of a season, and they're the only one that has had a winning record. That is according to the folks at ESPN. 1933, outgained every game, and they've won more than half of them. That's Steelers football in a nutshell. That's what they do. They'll bend but not break. They'll allow you to feel like you're beating them, and they'll beat you. Once they play Renegade, although Renegade didn't have immediate effects in a positive way because the Titans just kind of started to drive down the field, but the defense stiffened. They got the ball back. They methodically got themselves in position for the game-winning touchdown, and that was that.
You know, Kirk Herbstreit made the point last night that it felt like one of those old-school AFC Central battles between the Oilers and the Steelers and, you know, Jerry Glanville and all those Steelers guys and that good Steelers defense. They're always built on defense, and that's what it is again. The Steelers team is built on defense. And last night they were outgained 340 to 326 again, and they still found a way to win. And when you look at the record, you're like, how are they doing this? How do they keep winning? I mean, Kenny Pickett doesn't look good, and all of a sudden he leads a game-winning drive. I think that was his 6-1 he's had in his career already. So somehow they are finding ways to win. And I think, Mike, this speaks to coaching and how well coached this team is. And you hear Steelers fans every once in a while go, oh, I'm tired of Mike Tomlin. There are more than half of the teams in the league would fire their coach right now to hire Mike Tomlin as their head coach, maybe even more than that, because he's a really good coach and he gets the most out of his teams. And I think we're seeing it again this year, because when I look at this team, I'm like, this team is not very good, and they just keep winning. They find ways to win.
And I'm thinking about that final quarter because after the Steelers punted to the Titans and the Titans had it deep in their own end, came back from commercial, and you could see the aftermath of Renegade, the ritual that doesn't happen every single game, but when they need it, and every home game this year, I think they've needed it in the fourth quarter. They've needed that shot in the arm. The Titans got the ball into, close to the 50, punted to the Steelers, and that's when we saw this 11-play, 92-yard drive that consumed a large chunk of the clock, 5 minutes and 11 seconds in all. It felt like it took up more than that, but the Titans got the ball back with 4 minutes left, got it to 4th and 4 at the Steelers' 46, went for it, and that was the play that Treylon Burks was injured on, and it looks like he's going to be okay. It was a scary moment, and kind of, it's just like, it was one of those where, and every time that happens now, after DeMar Hamlin, it's like, is it precautionary or is it something more? Is he okay? Are they just doing everything they need to do to make sure? And it was just kind of a strange vibe when it happened, and there was no obvious moment when he came down. He hit his head on the ground and rolled over, but there were something caused them to be concerned. And if you were watching the game, he was kind of laying motionless for a while after that play. But that was a 4th and 4, and you throw it deep.
Yeah.
I don't know about that play call. Obviously, if it works, and they're geniuses, but the percentage chance of it working as opposed to just trying to get your chunk of yardage and keep the clock moving and get yourself in position on that drive to get the game-winning touchdown, that seems like it would have been a better move. But that was all a prelude to the reason why Steelers fans hate Matt Canada. And I was surprised last night, before we get to that last Steelers drive that almost blew the game for them. Matt Canada came to the sideline last night to call plays for the first time as a Pittsburgh offensive coordinator. The first acknowledgement, directly or indirectly, by the Steelers that something is amiss with their offensive attack. It's been nonstop complaining, fire Canada chants at Steelers games, at Penguins games. It's been the predominant storyline of the season. Matt Canada stinks. Get rid of Matt Canada. That's not me. That's what the vibe has been. And it's gotten louder and louder. The Steelers finally acknowledge it. That surprised me because through it all, the Steelers have had kind of a stubbornness that just gets to the edge of arrogance. Not quite full-blown arrogance, But the Steelers' attitude is, we're going to do what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not our problem. And you know what? The more you complain about it, the more we're going to dig in our heels. That's why I was surprised they did anything. At this stage of the season, on a short week, after Sunday's game against the Jaguars, okay, Matt Canada, you're going to make this dramatic change to your game day experience. And it is dramatic. It's completely different. It's like a lab setting when you're in the booth and you can see everything that's happening on the field and you're detached from the emotion of the game. You're down on the sideline. You can't see it all the same way. It's loud. It's hectic. You get caught up. The adrenaline flows. I was surprised that they gave into that. Before we break down that last drive, I was surprised the Steelers gave in and did that. And they won, but it's not like it changed anything. I think the outcome would have been the same if he was up in the booth.
Yeah, it's interesting they did that. And they did show him on the bench talking to Kenny Pickett. Maybe that helped Pickett some. I don't know. They did have the opening drive touchdown, Mike. Third time in the last 32 games that they have had an opening drive touchdown. They looked a little bit better on offense. But you're right. Did that have anything to do with Matt Canada being down on the sideline? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe it helped Kenny Pickett, him just talking to him on the sideline. I don't know. I think that's something for Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett to address if it worked, if that was the reason that they played better in the first half than they've played this season in any first half. But they did look better overall, and whether that had anything to do with it or not, you have to figure he's going to be down on the sideline for the next game because they were more productive yesterday. So we'll see what happens with Matt Canada, Mike, but he's got to produce more than what he's producing offensively to keep his job beyond this year, I would think, because they came into this game averaging 16 points a game. That's just not enough. That ranks 29th in the league. So, again, the fact that they have a winning record is just amazing with what they've done offensively. But he's got to figure it out and figure out how to make it work. And with Kenny Pickett, and some plays, they look great, and they look like they're clicking. That 30-yard, whatever it was, throw was fantastic. The touchdown play they drew up was fantastic. But they got to find more of that and do it more consistently. And
it was ultimately, I think, a recognition by the Steelers that something needs to be fixed. Something is indeed broken. And you're right. Even if they make the playoffs, Matt Canada in serious trouble with the Steelers and may not be back next year. There's the ultimate game-winning touchdown. The first touchdown for Deontay Johnson since the Truman administration, I believe. Actually, Ben Roethlisberger was the last guy to throw Deontay Johnson a touchdown pass. That's how long it had been for Deontay Johnson to actually get in the end zone. He dropped one, I think just one play before that, but the drive was extended by they got closer. They got the first down. The drive wouldn't have been over there, but there was a blatant holding when you had this kind of rubber out on the front end, but it still would have been touchdown if Deontay Johnson had held on to it. He just declined the penalty, but then he gets the touchdown. I think on the very next play, and it was the next play, it was a 2nd and 6 from the 6 when Deontay Johnson dropped the ball, and it was the next play, 1st and goal from the 3, that the touchdown happened. So Matt Canada's on the sideline. Steelers get the ball back with 2:06 to play. Not 4:02. 4:02 is when the Titans got it back.
Yeah.
Kid can't even read. 2:06 is when the Steelers get it back. So this game should be over. You should be able to get a first down and go home. On the first play, Najee Harris loses 3 yards. 2-minute warning, stops the clock. Second play, they do one of these Calvin Austin end around. They gains 2 yards. Timeout Tennessee. 1:56 to play. And then on 3rd and 11, and the crowd wasn't happy. And I don't know what you do in that spot. You're on your own 46. It's 3rd and 11. Chances are that offense didn't get in the first down by that point. That drive was blown the first 2 plays. So they do another run, 3 yards, and another timeout from the Titans, 1:50. Pittsburgh punts, and that set the stage for the Titans to have that moment that we saw at the end where Quan Alexander had to make the interception to finally slam the door. So that's where, in a key moment, having an ineffective offense can really screw you up because the game should have been over then. They should have been able to get a first down. a marginally, reasonably effective offense gets a first down there. It was almost like they were never going to throw on any of the 3 downs. We're just not even going to take that chance. We're content to not trust our offense to win the game with a first down. We're content to trust our defense to not let this rookie in his second start drive the length of the field. And probably the right decision, I don't know, but it almost blew up in their faces. And if they hadn't won that game, the failure of the offense to do anything when it got the ball back with 2:06 to play would be the primary talking point and would be the spark for even more Matt Canada hatred in Pittsburgh.
Well, that's what it came down to exactly, Mike, is they trusted their defense to close out the game. They didn't trust their offense. And we don't even know, and I would be willing to bet that that wasn't Matt Canada's decision. I would almost guarantee that's Mike Tomlin's decision. And we've talked a lot. We talked a lot about Kyle Shanahan and overruling and all those types of things. This could be a thing where Mike Tomlin said, look, you find 3 running plays, but we're running it 3 times, and we're going to punt the ball, and then our defense is going to hold them. And that's exactly how it turned out. And when you have a defense that you can trust like that, you're able to do that. But, Mike, this is a team that cannot run. That's part of the problem with their offense. They drafted Najee Harris high, and he's done absolutely nothing for them. Came into the game averaging 79 yards rushing. They did much better yesterday, so maybe they've hit on something that they can run the ball a little bit better than what they've had. But that's been part of the problem, is they can't run the football. And that offensive line just hasn't held up to allow them to run the football. So they've got to figure that out, how to close out games and not always rely on your defense. Yes, that defense is good. Yes, most times, especially against a young quarterback making his second start on a short week, you're going to win that game. But are you going to be able to do it in the playoffs? I don't think so. So they're going to have to figure that out as they go along the season if they plan on being more than one and done.
Well, and that's why Chris Sims is so anti-Steelers, because they're going to take a seat at the playoff table and get their asses kicked in the wild card round. That this week-to-week effort to kind of sneak up on you, steal a win, and just gradually get enough to qualify for the postseason, that goes away in a single elimination setting. You're not going to sneak up on anyone in a single elimination setting. They know who you are. They know what you do. You're not going to be at home if you're the 6th seed or the 7th seed or the 5th seed. Your only chance being home if you're the 5th seed is if you host the championship game. So you're going to have to take that on the road. And yes, Steelers travel well, but they don't play Renegade in the opposing stadiums. It's a different sense completely when they have to leave Pittsburgh. And we saw what happened a couple of years ago when they went to Kansas City. And I thought they were going to win, and they pulled off one of those defensive touchdowns with T.J. Watt to go up 7-0. And I thought I was onto something when they were playing Kansas City. And then I think the final score was 92-7. So that's what's waiting for the Steelers if they get to the playoffs. And I think that's another reason why the fans are so exasperated by the offense, because this isn't an offense that's going to win in January. I mean, you look at it objectively and say, hey, they kind of got the formula. Defense and running game, defense and running game. But you still got to be able to throw. There are certain moments where you've got to have it. And it feels like they don't consistently or sufficiently deliver in those moments. And you mentioned the running game. Jaylen Warren had 88 yards on 11 carries. Najee Harris had 69 on 16. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry. Warren had 8. And I've gone back and forth on this. Warren has more burst. Warren has more explosiveness. I feel like Najee Harris is still the lead guy because he is the epitome of Steeler football. He is rough and tough, and he goes out there and he gives everything he has. And yeah, another running back would have gotten 12 yards and he got 7. But it's those 7 yards and the way he goes about it that fuels the machine that is the Steelers, that keeps the defense willing to go out there and throw their bodies into harm's way because they see what Najee Harris does on a consistent basis. So even though Warren is the better player, and maybe on another team between the two, Warren's getting 25 carries and Harris is just the short yardage guy, if that, I think it fits this whole formula in Pittsburgh of this is what it takes for us when we're outgained every week to win more than we lose.
Yeah, their running backs together had 30 carries for 166 yards, Mike, and I think they found a formula between the two of them that they can get to work, but they've got to do it on a consistent basis. You can't average 79 yards rushing a game, especially when you play the type of football that the Steelers play. And another thing is that in the red zone, they were 2 for 4 yesterday. Titans were only 1 for 4, which ended up being the difference in the game, but they've got to get better in the red zone. And you have to be able to run the ball some in the red zone to be good in the red zone. And you would think with those running backs, they would be good in the red zone. But they were not able to consistently get the football in the end zone yesterday, which is why it ended up being a close game, is because they were kicking field goals down there. So they've got to figure this out. Matt Canada's got to figure this out if he wants to stay beyond this season. And they've got to figure this out as a team if they want to stay in the playoffs beyond one week.
And, from time to time last night, how do I put this? Kirk Herbstreit, it felt like was making excuses for Matt Canada by pointing to the execution and not to the coaching. And, it was more than twice. And I don't know. I don't know where the line is because ultimately the coaches are responsible for ensuring that the players properly execute the plays. That's what coaching is, partially. You design the plays, and you make sure the players are sufficiently accountable and skilled and prepared that they can properly execute the plays. So if the offense doesn't work, the offense doesn't work. It doesn't matter. Those are the best players they have. These are the players. You got to make it work. Now, we talked earlier about the move from Matt Canada, booth to sideline. Both Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett discussed that decision after last night's win. Here's what they had to say.
Again, we're making moves with the intentions of being better. And so we'll see as we move forward.
Did it help at all?
It was good. I think, we communicate really well with the headset. No one else really gets a chance to do that with him. So I think, him being able to go over to each position group and kind of get on the same page with them and let them know what we're thinking going into each drive, I think it definitely was a positive.
So you talked about that earlier, the ability to work with Kenny Pickett, communicate with Kenny Pickett. And, hey, the NFL had to like it because all those sideline shots just showed everyone how awesome this year's Salute to Service collection is. Like, every year they got to come up with something new. And I've got a couple of the Salute to Service hoodies. Some years I see them and it's like, I'll wait till next year. Last night, I got a good look at this year's collection because it was the first game of November. And I ordered one. I did. I couldn't help it. I saw it. It's like, man, those are awesome. I ordered one. So well done, NFL. Well done. Maybe that's why the Steelers put Matt Canada on the sideline, to sell more Salute to Service gear so we'd get more shots at the sideline last night. Whatever the motivation, it worked. And it worked for the Steelers for last night, although they got outgained. That's where I'm struggling. They won. They got outgained. And in that key drive at the end, they just kind of cried uncle and didn't even really try to get a first down. So to your point, especially with Canada on the sideline, opportunities to have direct conversations face-to-face with Mike Tomlin. We get the ball back. We'll just run. And if we have to give them another chance, so be it. Our defense will stop them. I assume that was the calculus. And that's part of what you do when you don't really trust your offense to go out there and get that 10 yards on a gotta-have-it drive. Just let the defense do it instead. And it almost – the point is, if they – give up a touchdown on that last drive, all hell breaks loose in Pittsburgh because of the Steelers' last drive. They're lucky that the defense came through because any positivity out of last night completely implodes for the offense if the defense doesn't come through on that final drive.
No doubt, Mike. And I don't know who to blame for this, whether it's Matt Canada, whether it's Kenny Pickett. I don't know. But the fact that George Pickens had 2 receptions for -1 yard, it blows me away that they were able to win the ball with their best receiver, one of the best receivers in the NFL, by the way, only getting 5 targets, 2 receptions. Of course, he had the touchdown that he couldn't get the second foot in bounds, and they end up scoring on that drive anyway. But that, to me, is just wrong, that you're not getting the ball to your best weapon on offense, and he is. You got to find a way, whether it's Kenny Pickett finding some 101s and giving him a chance at those 50-50 balls, or Matt Canada drawing up plays to get him open, whatever it is, You've got to get him the football more than 2 times.
You're absolutely right. And they talk about it all the time. Kenny Pickett was on with Adam Shine on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio a week and a half ago talking about it. And every time I hear that, I get a little excited because I think Pickens could be great. And I have been saying this all year. Why are you not getting the ball to him all the time? Why are you not scheming your offense to get this guy the ball? Put it in his hands. Now, I will say this, and Alex has been working with us this year, and I'm trying to teach him how things are done. He did say to me after this play that we're looking at right now, when Pickens did not get the second foot down, he said, great receiver gets a toe in there. And it's like, because I'm in this whole George Pickens is the best player in the NFL. The Steelers are holding him back, and he slips in with that. If he was as good as you say he is, why didn't he do what I've seen like 1,000 other guys do? In that moment, you know where the sideline is. You know where your body is. You practice that all the time. How do you not get your toe down? Why is your foot landing that far out of bounds in that spot? And I don't want to be critical of the guy because I love the guy and I think he could be great. But point to Alex, great receiver, gets the toe in instead of having the toe come down out of bounds.
And a great official who's standing right there gets the call right away, too. I'm trying to figure out how he missed the call, Mike. It was right there. You could see it in real time. He didn't get the second foot down.
Don't get me started. We see that all the time. All the time. Where an official is looking right at it, unimpeded, undistracted, unconcerned about getting run over by one of the gladiators. And that's one of my bits. Like, you got 7 middle-aged people down there with no protection whatsoever among the gladiators with helmets and pads and cleats and they're giants, and you're trying to process all this while not getting killed. And exactly. But this is, you still have these where the guy's clearly safe and in a position to use the naked eye to see what happens. And what happens, it doesn't, like, what is it that causes the brain to malfunction? Which gets back to my point. They need to tear down the officiating function, rebuild it in light of every available technology today. I've written about it. We've talked about it before. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. But that's a great example of it. When the officials who are looking right at it blow it. Now, they fixed it. They shouldn't have to fix it. And the fact that they have to fix it tells you the old way of officiating games no longer works. All right. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.